Have you ever walked into an empty room and immediately felt weird? Not necessarily scared, just uncomfortable, like something about the room feels wrong. Maybe it's an empty classroom after school, maybe it's your living room at 3 a.m., or maybe it's just a random vacant apartment with absolutely nothing inside it. There's no monster, no danger, no creepy music playing in the background, and yet your brain still goes, yeah, I don't like this place. But why? Why can an empty room feel more unsettling than a room full of people? Well, it turns out your brain is kind of terrible at handling emptiness, and today we're going to talk about why. First of all, humans are not used to true emptiness. Your brain evolved in environments where there was always something happening. Wind moving leaves, animals making sounds, people talking, fire crackling, water flowing. Your brain got used to constant information. So when you suddenly enter a room with almost no sound, no movement, and nothing really happening, your brain starts getting suspicious. Because silence and emptiness are unusual, and your brain hates unusual things. Think about it. When you enter a normal room, your brain immediately understands everything. Oh, cool, that's a couch, that's a TV, there's a person sitting there. Nice. But an empty room gives your brain almost nothing to work with. It's just walls and space. A lot of weird, empty space. So your brain starts paying extra attention to every tiny detail. And that's where the discomfort begins. Now, here's the really interesting part. Your brain is basically a prediction machine. It constantly tries to predict what's going to happen next. That's how humans survive. Your brain predicts movement, sounds, faces, danger. But in an empty room, there's barely any information, which means your brain can't predict things properly anymore. And when the brain becomes uncertain, it becomes anxious. That's why empty places can feel tense for absolutely no reason. Your brain starts going, okay, but why is this place empty? Was somebody here before? Should I be concerned? Even though logically you know nothing's wrong, your ancient monkey brain is already preparing for disaster. Because thousands of years ago, abandoned places often were dangerous. If a place was suddenly empty, something bad probably happened there. Predators, disease, natural disasters. So humans evolved to be cautious around silent, abandoned environments. And honestly, we never really stopped doing that. Another huge reason empty rooms feel uncomfortable is the silence. Real silence is actually super weird for humans. Most of the time, there's always background noise somewhere. Cars outside, fans spinning, people talking, your phone buzzing every 6 seconds because apparently society collapsed if we don't check notifications immediately. But when a room becomes too quiet, your brain starts amplifying tiny sounds. Suddenly you hear everything. Your footsteps sound louder. The floor creaks like it's in a horror movie. You hear random tiny taps somewhere in the distance. And then your brain does something incredibly annoying. It starts trying to identify the sound. What was that? Did something move? Was that the house settling, or am I about to die? And because humans are amazing at imagining nonsense, your brain usually chooses the scariest possible explanation first. Congratulations, now the empty room feels haunted. But honestly, the creepiest thing about empty rooms might be how they mess with your imagination. Because humans absolutely hate incomplete information. Your brain always wants answers. That's why we see faces in clouds, or shapes in darkness, or monsters in that pile of clothes on the chair. Your brain is constantly trying to complete patterns. So when a room is empty, your imagination starts filling the emptiness automatically. That's why abandoned hospitals feel terrifying, even if there's literally nobody there. Your brain starts imagining stories. What happened here? Who used to be here? Why does this hallway look cursed? And suddenly, your imagination creates an entire horror movie out of absolutely nothing. Honestly, the human brain deserves an award for creating problems that don't exist. There's also another reason empty rooms feel weird. They feel lonely. Humans are social creatures. We're used to signs of life around us. Chairs being used, lights being on, objects lying around, people existing. An empty room removes all of that. It feels abandoned, and abandoned places remind humans of isolation. And isolation used to be dangerous for survival. Back then, being alone usually meant you were vulnerable. So even today, completely empty environments can trigger a small stress response in your brain. Not enough to fully panic, but enough to make you uncomfortable. That's why empty schools at night feel cursed, even though during the daytime they're completely normal. The moment humans disappear from a place, the vibe changes instantly, and your brain notices it immediately. Now, let's talk about something called liminal spaces. You've probably seen these online before. Weird, empty hallways, abandoned malls, silent playgrounds at night. Places that feel strangely nostalgic, but also deeply uncomfortable. People are obsessed with these images because they create a very weird feeling. They look familiar, but something feels slightly wrong. Usually because they're missing the one thing your brain expects: people. And when familiar places become empty, your brain gets confused. It feels like reality itself is broken somehow, like the world paused for a second. And honestly, that feeling is both fascinating and terrifying at the same time. But here's the funniest part in all of this. Most empty rooms are completely harmless. Your brain is basically scaring itself. The room isn't dangerous. The silence isn't dangerous. Your imagination is just running at 400 miles per hour for absolutely no reason. And somehow, humans still do the exact same thing every single night. You turn off the lights, walk away calmly for 2 seconds, then suddenly sprint up the stairs like a demon spawned behind you. Why? Because deep down, your brain still thinks the empty dark room might contain a predator, even though the only thing actually waiting there is probably a chair with clothes on it pretending to be a ghost. And honestly, that's still terrifying. So the next time an empty room feels uncomfortable, just remember, the room probably isn't haunted. Your brain is simply doing what humans evolved to do: search for life and panic when it finds nothing.